of these hybrid beings. And some of them are in India, like the Naga, which is a half-man, half-snake. In Greece, we have the Medusa with her hair made of snakes. In Egypt, the entire god pantheon consists of these half-man, half-animals, with Anubis, for example, with the head of a dog and the body of a human being. And to suggest that all of these creatures were nothing else but fantasy, in my opinion, doesn't really hold water, because our ancestors depicted what they saw.
But if the monster we know as Bigfoot really exists, and is an ancient alien hybrid that has survived to modern times, what was it created for? Some ancient astronaut theorists believe the answer can be found by taking another look at the Sumerian stories of the Anunnaki and the Bigfoot-like creature called Enkidu.
The gods originally came here to mine gold, but they didn't like to mine the gold themselves. So the Anunnaki created what we call the Enkidu. They decided amongst the gods to fashion a worker being, the perfect working model. Not as sophisticated or as advanced as us, it was the first working model that they used as a slave labor.
If the creature known as Bigfoot really was created by aliens to mine precious metals thousands of years ago, as ancient astronaut theorists believe, why would it still be around today? Is it simply what remains of an ancient race of hybrid beings? Or might these giant beasts still be working on behalf of extraterrestrials?
Why would they put a Sasquatch character here that they made? And it may be that we're dealing with intelligences that can create anything with genetic material. They would make a creature that would be strong, big enough to fend for itself, have some kind of a mission, but is not to interact with Homo sapien at all. Might explain why Sasquatch has always been so elusive.
Could have been an experiment out of natural curiosity by them, or perhaps they had a purpose in putting Bigfoot on our planet. Perhaps to test out the environment before they ultimately land here and take over. It could be a long-term genetic experiment.
Is it possible that the reason we have not found hard evidence of Bigfoot's existence is because it is hiding out, performing some secret extraterrestrial mission? Or might its elusiveness be a survival instinct, one highly evolved over thousands of years, while hiding from a far more dangerous alien hybrid species, human beings? Hong Kong, 1935. In a small medicinal shop, German paleontologist Dr. Gustav von Koenigswald purchased a set of giant molars thought to be the teeth of an ancient dragon. After further study, von Koenigswald determined that he had stumbled upon the first fossil evidence of an extinct species of ape called Gigantopithecus. Standing 10 feet tall and weighing up to 1,200 pounds, this gigantic ape, believed to have lived alongside several early hominid species for tens of thousands of years, is the largest known primate to ever walk the earth. Might the creature known as Bigfoot be a descendant of this ancient beast?
A popular theory for the origins of Sasquatch is that it may be descended from a known great ape, Gigantopithecus, a giant ape that lived during the latter part of the Pleistocene and achieved, along with many other animals, gigantic proportions. As an ape with a small brain, it had extra crests and ridges of bone to provide attachment for the massive muscles to drive these very heavy jaws. By comparison, the gorilla has the crests and ridges that are found on Gigantopithecus or Bigfoot, presumably, to support the muscles attaching to a very small brain with a small cranial covering.
The skulls of Gigantopithecus and the modern-day gorilla are typical of large primates. But the human skull, a species also believed to have descended from large primates, is very different.
And the human skull is remarkably smaller, our distinction being the much greater cranial capacity, smaller jaws, smaller muscles to drive these jaws.
What can account for such significant differences in related species? And why are humans relatively hairless and possess brains far more advanced than other primates? Are we really the result of evolution? Or might the truth be that the real alien hybrid is not Bigfoot, but man?
What today is referred to as the missing link is extraterrestrial intervention, because without that extraterrestrial intervention, evolution did not take place the way we're told in school. Right after we shed our fur, for millennia, we had to keep warm by wearing furs. Yet, we used to have fur all over our body, so something doesn't make sense.
Our ancient ancestors here may well be, in a sense, aliens from some other solar system, perhaps the Greys. What they've done is manipulate what were already humanoids on this planet, but brute humanoids. Hairy, brutish people, the caveman of ancient times, but we're being genetically manipulated and given the DNA of these extraterrestrials.
The progression of the Darwinian evolution, looking at the Neanderthal man, the Australopithecine, all the way up to Cro-Magnon, it's very possible that that missing link is still being looked into. Now, I don't think they're ever going to find it, because the missing link more than likely was a genetic alteration on that hominid to make us.
Could Homo sapiens really be a species not indigenous to planet Earth? And if humans are the result of genetic engineering by alien beings, as ancient astronaut theorists believe, might Bigfoot creatures really be the last surviving examples of prehistoric hominids? Creatures who would have originally dominated this planet.
Is it possible that during the genetic manipulation of human beings, we at one point started out as Sasquatch and Bigfoot and Yetis?
One of the stories in the Sumerian myths is how the gods came into contact with this ape-like creature here on Earth and said, we can put our genetic marker on this creature and make man in our image and after our likeness. These ape-like hairy creatures existed here naturally on Earth and are possibly the origins of how humanity was spliced by the Anunnaki into creating us that still exists today.
Might the legend of Bigfoot really be the story of Earth creatures who escaped experimentation by ancient aliens? And could this help explain why they have been hiding from man for thousands of years?
I think out of all the so-called paranormal phenomena that is scoffed at by science, we, at some point in the not-too-distant future, are going to have real, irrefutable evidence of the existence of these creatures. The fact that Bigfoot have been able to skirt about on the periphery and remain hidden and remain secretive and be seldom seen means that they're intelligent. But what happens when populations keep expanding, remote areas start getting settled, and Bigfoot starts to lose more
in favor either of someone expelling the Arabs away and away from Gaza or from Israel in general, because that imitates in a way the what Mr. Hitler did. his Nazi orcs.
Could they have been the product
So,
of the genetic modification
like I said, I'm in favor of the Gaza incorporated and proper
the real
to
alien
Israel.
creatures
Uh,
manufactured by using alien
I think that Gaza is lost to the Palestinian Authority. Palestinian Authority did not condemn this kind of attack in any possible way. Despite the endless fact of barbarity, none of them is excused in Islam or any other so-called civilized religion or culture in general. And like I said in a previous message, I'm in favor of offering offensive weapons and keeping and sending them and jet fighters, despite the fact that I was more to restrain the whole this choice of war. And hopefully, someone will wake up in Ukraine and boost the local defense industry as much as possible because, unfortunately, Mr. Trump and his populist downward he's taken to take the bloody chair, he may actually do that. He may stop any defensive weaponry towards Ukraine to please his pal, Mr. Putin. Which, frankly, I personally am laughing at, since it would be more like a dictatorial policy and offer towards someone who does not care, and he will laugh at to Europe, who is trying to keep the eastern border secure. So we're talking chaos, we're talking about Hundiism, which is populist voodoo, and everybody, and in Greece, which is the latest example, in Romania with Mr. Ceausescu, is laughing at because someone who's trying to impose his own personal madness and suppression idolatry in order to make people think they have it, but they're not. Again, revert and resort back to the living God or the man God back in ancient Rome. Which again, we have leaders of some cartels or even factions, some kind of politics, well positioned to call the shots. And I think that probably demoralizes patriotism in general, and Russian patriotism in the case of Russia, and of course American patriotism. And that is an example for the rest of Judeo-Christian inspired societies and secure to this day, which is very, very sad fact. And because someone proved that they're leading the show, will try to erase everything and turn the Western man or the Christian man avoid cocoon to be filled with whatever the fuck they want, what they think is proper for them to prove they run the show. And of course, to see how they will connect with the millions and zillions of immigrants and the mass movements of people coming and going, settling to what is still called the Northern Hemisphere, mainly, which means mainly again North America, Europe, Eastern Europe, and the future climate change pending and policies of Moscow, Russia, and Siberia most importantly, which has endless resources, who will keep them, will take advantage of the human resources, native or imported.
Eerily similar to the story that would later